Yes, welcome everybody to the, what is this, November session of the Ask Me Anything or Ask the Experts. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah. One thing I noticed on my, I think you'll see it's an I have an M1 iPad Pro. Anyhow, when I do a total shutdown and startup, uh, all my icons get rearranged and I get all these widgets that show up on the screen. So I have to delete everything, rearrange or whatever. And I went online to look to see in some of the online groups who else is having this problem. And what are some of the possible solutions on it. And actually, hold on here. I think my better half is calling me, so I'm going to mute out a second here.
Well, I have a question
Go ahead.
concerning Gmail. I have a friend that apparently forgot her Gmail password, and she actually had two different Gmail passwords. Neither of them worked. And so we did the I forgot routine, and they sent a code to her iPhone. And then when we put the code in, Google did not recognize the code.
Hmm. Well,
So
usually it has to be within 10 minutes.
yeah, no, it
Is,
was it was in within a minute. And so then we went to the, find another way and finally got to the point where it said we have to identify you and we'll let you know in 48 hours. And they never sent her anything. She had an alternate Yahoo address to send it to, and she never received anything on that Gmail address. But on a second Gmail address, she got a 6-digit code a couple of days later, which she didn't ask for, which I don't know if Google is mixed up or somebody was trying to get into her account.
it sounds like somebody may have been trying to get into her account.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Um, what web browser is she trying to use to gain access?
Safari.
Have her try Chrome.
Okay.
That's the only time I've ever have had success with Chrome with Google when I've had to get recovery stuff is Chrome for some reason they like it better.
Yeah,
So I would install Chrome, do that, and then delete Chrome immediately off your computer.
right.
Or you can
So
use the Google app on iOS.
yeah, that's another option is the Google app on iOS.
Okay.
Well,
I'm ha
Kevin, I had a similar email one from supposedly X support, and I'm going like, no. And I went ahead and I used two-factor authentication with Authy, and I went ahead and checked with see if I can sign into my account because it said, "Hey, the reason you can't get into your account is because there's a problem with the email address."
right.
And I'm going, yeah, okay. So I signed into X, no problem. And I'm going, yeah, you know what? I think there's some really serious phishing stuff
Yeah,
that's
I lost my X account or my Twitter account about 2 or 3 years. Somebody stole it. And my login is my email address. And I have been writing them every month, and they keep on telling me that they're unable to verify that I am me, even though I keep on telling them it's my email address. You're getting an email from me, you're sending an email to me, but I can't log in under this account. And they're saying, well, your recovery email is different. I said, that's because somebody stole my account and put their own recovery email in there. Um,
makes
but
sense.
they will not let me back into my account. And I've
Wow.
had it since 2011.
Wow.
So once you lose an account, it's very, very hard these days to get into them.
Yeah. Anyhow, with my original question there, um, the suggestions that I read online is that basically to reset the iPad and try it again. And I've said, you know what? I've already reset it once before, and I'm just not going to do it. But it was an interesting thing. Maybe just share it with anybody else who had that problem. I don't have that problem with my M4 iPad. It's just something that's unique to my older M1. Uh, and I am running 18.1 on the M1 and actually on beta 18.2 on the M4. But
Well, why
just
don't you
interesting thing that came up that's a little frustrating.
did you run the update that came out this afternoon, 18.11?
I'll have to look. I'm so busy watching the Starship.
I wonder if that fixes that.
No, okay. No, I haven't run it, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that.
Yeah, try that. You never know. Sometimes they put a fix in there or something in the OS messes up.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you.
I had
Anybody
a
else
couple,
have any questions?
I've got a couple of questions, please, and I'm trying to video and everything to work to get up and down to let dogs outside. Two things, please. I have a excuse me, an iPhone 16 that I bought a few weeks ago, and when I text myself from my work phone, or if I get a text from anybody else, it'll chime, but it won't light up the screen at all. It won't wake it up. And I've tried setting the banners and the this and the that and the whatever. And maybe it's supposed to work like that, but I could have sworn that my iPhone 12 would light up with the text message.
I never, I don't look at my phone when it's off to see what happens. Let me send myself a text and turn my display off and see what happens. Give me 1 second. Now, do you have the always on enabled or disabled?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
So when you look at your screen when it's off, do you see the time in a dim picture?
When it's totally off, it's black.
Okay, so you have always on turned off. You may want to try the always on display
Okay.
and see if that makes a change.
All right. I'll look for that under display. Now, my second question is, I bought a new MacBook Pro 16-inch a few weeks ago as well. I'm getting all sorts of new stuff. And I gave my other MacBook 13-inch that I had for about 4 years to a friend of mine. And I, clear out, reset it, blah, blah, blah. So she goes to start it up, and it's supposed to be like, select your language, select all these other things, but it wants a password. And it's
Okay, so it depends on how you cleared it out. What was the old one? Was it an M series or was it a 2019 Intel?
Intel.
Okay, when you clear it out before you erase the drive or reset the OS, you needed to go in and turn off Find My.
All right. I thought it
If
was
you
off, but
did
I'll
if
go
you
back and
didn't do that,
yeah.
then she's going to have to turn it on, enter your Apple ID and password in order to authorize the computer.
Okay. And we were
So,
going to try and do that over the weekend, but we didn't have an
and the
opportunity.
proper way to do that is once you're in there, make sure then you turn off the Find My again, and then you erase it and reinstall the operating system.
Okay. Because I usually don't have Find Mine turned on my computers, only on my phone. Sometimes it's on my phone.
By default, it gets turned on laptops when you do a software update.
Oh, okay.
So, because that's one of the nice things about it with the mobile computing.
Yeah. And I noticed that there's a new version of iOS that's available tonight.
And also Mac OS.
Yeah.
And if you're on older operating systems, Safari.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Kevin, back on the iPhone, there is somewhat of a behavioral change in that the whole screen doesn't light up with a phone call now necessarily. It may just be a banner.
It
And
depends on how you have contacts set up and where
yeah,
your screen is. It's annoying. And what
yeah.
I've noticed a lot lately is I'll get a single ring and then it goes quiet.
A lot of people are complaining about that, or calls going to voicemail directly.
Yeah.
And that may be a bug in the carrier thing too. We've seen that before, but particularly with the betas, we've been running into that.
Yeah. Apple is slowly fixing things, but it takes time. The macOS Sequoia is really stable. I really like it. The point 0.1 update was more like a point 0.3 update because it fixed every bug that I had. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Kevin, I have a question. You talked about the Sequoia update. After we updated the computer, we got a note that says about system extensions in Mac OS. And it's got two paragraphs, but two of the things it said is the Epson printer and something else, I don't remember what it was, what are not compatible or something. Is that going to be fixed, or do you know anything about that?
Well, there are some old Epson printer drivers that are not compatible with Sonoma on further up, and they'll just get disabled. There are some drivers that you have to sign. So you go into your security or settings of privacy and security.
Uh-huh.
Under the security setting, you just click the allow button and then you put a check mark next to the print drivers
Oh, okay.
and to allow them and then reboot and then that error goes away.
Okay, go into security settings. Okay. Alrighty.
Along those same lines, I have a client who recently purchased a 24-inch iMac, and obviously it came with Sequoia, and it would not communicate with her brother inkjet multifunction machine. And I was thinking that maybe we had to do an on-site service to see if we can get that corrected. But then she said, well, the printer's 15 years old. And so she went out and bought a new Brother multifunction inkjet for considerably less than $200, and she's a happy camper. So evidently, some printer drivers go obsolete with Sequoia, and how the printer manufacturers, how incentivized are they to go through the trouble of updating the drivers? Well, they can just buy a new printer. And that's happened to me with tablets and scanners and printers and so forth. It's it's part of their racket.
Wacom is the worst.
Pardon?
Wacom is the worst.
Yeah.
I've gone through so many um,
Oh,
drawing tablets. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. After 3 OSs, next one up, buy a new tablet.
Yeah. Yeah. I've purchased 3 or 4 tablets over the years. And as far as my Epson photo scanner, I finally bit the bullet and bought
A view
ViewScan
scan.
for $100, and they'll keep updating it for me forever. So I'm very happy with that. So that's the way. Looks like Tony's joining us from the road. Don't do anything that's going to put you in the ditch, Mr. Tony. On to the next question.
Well, Apple does tend to update some of the driver code from time to time. And for developers that aren't paying attention or didn't get notified, they might not know that. And again, then it becomes the trade-off that you talked about before. Is it worth it? How many users are there? Is it worth it to update them?
How can we find out if my printer is going to be compatible with Sequoia?
Chances are if you're running Sonoma now, it will be.
Okay.
So, I mean, you have a 95% chance. There's a few that are not, and they're really the older stuff.
Hey, Tommy, if I update before you do, I'll bring my Mac over and I'll hook it up to your printer. How about that?
Okay. That's great. Sounds like a deal.
Tommy, what printer do you have?
I have an HP Color LaserJet Pro. It really works nicely.
Yeah, chances are the laser printers are not going to be a problem. It's some of the old Epson and HP inkjets
Yeah.
that are like 20 years old. I had a client who the other day got a new Mac and wouldn't his Epson printer would not work with Sequoia, and it told him that the firmware was out of date. So it did a firmware update, and then with the new firmware, none of his ink cartridges were recognized by the printer, even though they were Epson cartridges. So he just said, "The hell with it," went over to the base and bought a new printer.
Epson.
I started out with a HP color laser printer. I liked it a lot until the magenta cartridge got close to the end, like maybe 25% less left. And the printer said, you have to replace all 4 cartridges. And, at the tune of $125 a piece. And this was 20 years ago. So from that point on, for me, HP no longer exists.
I have a client that still uses HP LaserJet 3s,
For your,
and those are fun getting running.
just for your happiness, Bob, I ran out of ink one after the other, and I got them one cartridge after the other.
Well, I now have a Brother color laser printer. And before I purchased it, I found that there's a little dance you can do with the buttons on the top. So it forgets that it knows about that cartridge and thinks that it's a new cartridge. So I just run them down until they run out of toner.
That works. Oh, yeah, that Xerox printer that I got from you has separate cartridges and they're cheap. But I've only had 3 or 4 prints on it, so it's going to last a while. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just reinstalled the update and did not correct the problem. So
Does it happen when you do a restart or just when you do a shutdown?
restart. And of course, now it just did it when I did put the new update in. So
And what if, just throwing out ideas here, Dave, when you restart, it changes the icons?
it throws in the widgets. I get 3
Okay.
widgets. And when I go
So
to
what
widgets,
if you did another restart before rearranging anything and then remove the widgets?
I've done that. And
What was
it's
the question?
What happens is when he restarts his iPad, it adds in a couple of widgets and rearranges his home screen.
like,
Does
for
he have
instance,
multiple lock screens set up?
it's interesting. It only does it on my M1 iPad Pro.
And you're running what version?
Latest version.
Yeah, I just put
Dot
18
one. Dot one. Dot one.
1. The latest one just came out today. Just put it in it.
What
And
is what's your wallpaper setup to be at?
it's not doing anything with that. It's just I mean my M2 my M4 iPad doesn't do that. just on this one here, and I have the same wallpaper and same settings on my M4 as on this one. And it's
And
interesting.
and
I'm
there's
not the
just
only one that's
widgets that
had this
show up.
problem. Pardon?
There's just widgets that show up on one of the iPads, but not the others.
Right. It only does it on my iPad Pro, the big one, but it's an M1, not an M4. But anyhow, I did look online, and I'm not the only person that had this problem, but I thought I would just share it with the group there. Uh, some of the things that they suggested doing, I've done them all, and I just did the latest one they suggested. So, well, check for the latest update. And the
And it
latest
has to
update.
do with the widgets, though. It's just widgets that show up. That's the only difference.
What happens is I get three or four widgets that show up.
Hmm.
And when I go to remove the widgets, for instance, the clock, the widget clock shows up when I go to remove it from the stack. The clock goes away totally. So I have to go find the clock in the cloud and bring it back down. And I end up losing, two or three other of my normal home screen page icons. They're buried away in a different location.
When you
It'll take
long
a little-
press on your screen and you tap edit, do you have your icon set to small or large?
Let me tell you, I don't think I use the large ones. Widgets,
Because
customize.
if you change that, I wonder if it brings it back or if it changes it to your liking. So if you long press,
Look at edit.
yeah, you long press, they wiggle, then you tap edit in the upper left-hand corner,
Yeah, I have
and then
the
you tap
small icon.
customize.
Yeah, it's a
Try
small
changing
one.
it to large and small again and see if that changes, and then fiddle with that and see if you can get it to do what you want.
No,
See if that makes any impact on it.
it didn't make any impact.
So the widget still stays or does it disappear?
No, I just deleted, there was 4 widgets. I just deleted the 4 widgets. And again, my main screen icons are totally rearranged, and I'm missing
Well,
like 2 rows.
so
And
when you delete a widget, they will rearrange because they have to make room.
yeah, the problem is that the widgets appear every time I do a reset on
They
it.
just come back.
They just come back, yeah.
And when you say reset, what do you mean by reset?
Well, we just did a software update, of course, and it reloads, and it came back up and had widgets again on the home screen.
So after a software update, the widgets come back.
Software update. One of the things I did is if I do a total shutdown, and then power back on, the widgets come back.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's not remembering your home setup.
Something there, and it,
Yeah.
like I say, it's not unique to me, because when I went and looked at some of the on-site Apple folks there say
It's resetting your home setup. I remember like in screen time settings, there was something where it would reset it because I used to do it to my kids and it used to tick them off. There was a setting that you could turn on for that to reset the home. I mean, that may not actually be a bug. It might be a feature there might be a setting that's buried in there.
everything I saw online is that it apparently is a bug with the M1 on the iPad.
So it's not
Well,
happening.
I have an
happening
M1
to the other
iPad.
ones.
I don't have that problem.
All
So,
right. Well, is it an iPad Pro?
yep. I have a 12.9-inch M1.
Yeah, that's mine here is 12.9. All right. Well, it's something unique to mine. Anyhow, I just thought I would share that with you. And I went through all the different things that the online people were saying, try this, try that, try whatever. And it's still, I don't worry about it. I don't turn the thing off all the way all the time, but it was just interesting that everything I did according to what the folks online were suggesting to try didn't fix the problem.
I remember there being a setting though when I used to set up the iPads for the schools where you could turn some setting on so that if the kids rearranged the app icons, it would go back to the way we had them set up.
I remember that too. I'm looking.
You know what I mean?
you
You know what I
do.
mean? It's like, I think it's actually a feature. I don't think it's a bug. I think there's a setting to turn that on.
Well,
I just
we're
haven't used it in a while.
We talked about different lock screens because I had
Mhm.
one lock screen that was problematic on the iPhone and I just deleted it finally. Couldn't get it to kind of work right. And then I
Mhm.
was fine. But like when I turn on the sleep focus at night, so calls don't come through, it goes
Mhm.
to a different lock screen and they
Right.
can be different icons
That's
in
why
different
that was
apps.
my first thought. I was like wondering if he switched lock screens, but I don't think that's what's happening because he's talking about it after a reboot.
What
It
if there's an
happens after it
underlying
reboots.
default? Is that where you're going? Like there's some sort of default lock screen that it's going back to?
Yes, I think that there's a switch
Yeah.
that got switched
Not
on
a
somehow.
default. There was one that,
There was a setting
well,
that would put it
yeah,
back.
when you turn on that setting, it locks your lock screen or your home screen that way.
Right.
So after you restart, it goes back to that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like reset home screen layout.
Yeah.
I don't remember where it was.
Well, I'm looking under home screen and app library, and there's no setting like that.
Wonder if it could be in security.
It's under general.
Did you
Hold
find
on a
it?
second. Yeah, hold on. I found it. Whoops, I just lost it. It's called Reset Home Screen Layout, General
Yep.
Transfer
Yep.
or Reset
That's it is.
Devices.
That's what it is.
Hold on here. Let me look here.
That's what it's called.
Wait a minute.
It was under general where?
It's set under Reset, but I'm not finding it now.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
under
not there.
reset.
We got
Oh,
reset
under
or erase all
transfer or
content.
reset.
Yeah, but
But he's not, that's a deliberate setting he'd have to be picking, but he's not picking that. So maybe it is a bug in that's what's getting selected during his restart sequence. That reset home screen layout. Um uh it's not, there's no way that his iPad is managed, is it? It's not a managed, it's your own personal iPad. It's not managed
Right.
by
Yeah,
MDM.
right.
Because that sounds like an MDM setting to me. That's something I would turn on in an MDM switch,
Does.
doesn't it? But
Is
if
it?
then it does sound like it's a bug that's using a feature. There you go.
Please define MDM.
it's mobile
Mobile
device
device management.
management.
And
And
it,
basically what it is you would use um a management company. I use Jump Cloud for my clients.
I used Meraki.
Okay. Yeah, Mosel is another one. And what it does, you put a profile in the computer, and then a third party or a manager could determine what apps you could run, what updates you could run, and a lot of other things that are
Mhm.
um, anything that can be controlled. Like, for example, I have it on a bunch of clients that I don't want them upgrading their operating system,
Right.
because I tell them to do updates, not upgrades. They've
Hmm.
done upgrades and some of their commercial software doesn't run. So I'll put
Hmm.
an MDM in there and lock out upgrades.
Right.
So if they could download an update to say Sonoma, but if you double click on it, it will not run.
yeah, it's an enterprise thing. It's frequently done.
Well, in
Yeah.
schools, I used it as a school IT technician.
Yeah. It gives the user limited latitude in what they can do. And you can control various levels of that latitude in the OS or applications or so
Right.
on.
And another thing it'll do is you could also use it for password requirements, or you could do 2FA, or what they call multi-factor authentication on boot. So besides your password, you have to use a one-time passcode to log in, which makes it one step more secure.
I cut my teeth on Workgroup Manager and remote desktop.
Good old days.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually sat down with both of my iPads and went through each setting on each one to see if there's anything different on this one than on the M4, and they're identical. So
Yeah, I think it's a bug that's using that feature.
there you go. Anyhow, I don't other than when we get new software updates and the thing resets, I don't generally
Well, that's the
deal
symptom.
with it. But
What you're describing is a symptom. So it sounds to me like that particular iPad, if that's the only one that's suffering from it, then because it's happening during a reboot process, it's somehow triggering that particular feature when it reboots and it's resetting the home screen layout because that's what's happening to you.
yeah, and I'm not the only person that has this. Like I said, when I went online,
Right.
there's
That's
it's
why I
not
said it
unique to
must be a
this iPad.
bug that's using that feature. So somewhere during the sequence when it reboots, it's getting caught on that particular feature in there and
Yep.
it's tripping up on that when it shouldn't be, as if it were an MDM setting and it's not.
Dave, the one thing that I've seen online and mentioned a couple of places was that you remove the widget and you empty every icon off the first screen
Mhm.
and then put the icons back on the first screen after there's zero icons there.
Almost as if you're like resetting a P list, but with in
Yeah,
iPad OS world.
so you may want to try that.
All right. Well,
You'd have to
not
drive you that crazy to do that. That's nuke and pave it.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. I have getting a message on one of my computers that says backup disk not available. We have a Seagate 5 TB connected to it. Why am I getting that message, you know?
Could be that how old is the drive?
3 years, maybe?
It could be that the drive is going out. Does the drive mount? Do you know that?
No, I don't know what that means.
So in other words, do you see it on your desktop on that computer?
In front of me, but I'll check.
Yeah, or if you restart, does the drive come back? Sometimes a power glitch will cause messages that your drive was offline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a problem because we were overseas and came back and turned the computer on. We were getting it a couple days before we left.
Oh, really? And you mean you turn it on fresh and you're getting the message?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Well, back to you, Kevin.
Yeah, well, if you get it fresh after not having the machine on for a couple of weeks, that would be normal. If it says something like your machine has been backed up in 15 days and your computer was off for 15 days.
But we were getting the message right before we left and we just kind of let it go.
Yeah, it could be that drive needs to be either reformatted or reconfigured. For Time Machine may need to be replaced. It really depends on open up disk utility and see if it's seen. That would be the first thing I would do.
Okay. Thanks.
Is that a Time Machine disk, Mark?
No, I think Kevin might have put this Seagate connected a couple of years ago. I think actually you did it, Kevin.
That could be. So yeah, check it because sometimes after a few years, those things die because they're running 24/7 basically.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead
I
to
found that Time Machine disks sometimes can lose their way. And if you just erase the disk and start over, you're good. I've done that a number of times over the years.
Another thing that I do first is to disconnect the cable from the computer and from the hard drive and then reconnect it.
Yeah, see if it mounts.
get started.
Or try a different cable.
Easy things. Thanks.
And some of the formats have changed too. You know, with
I don't know.
APFS
I don't think they do APFS on rotational Time Machine drives. I think it can distinguish that because APFS will eat up a rotational drive.
What do you mean by eat up?
In other words, like say for example, your average spinning drive has about 100 megabits per second read and write. After a couple of years of using APFS, that slows down to about 15 to 20 megabits per second. If you have one of those old, say a 2019 iMac with a spinning drive in it, and you're running any of the current operating systems, it could take you 10, 15 minutes just to boot the machine, 5 or 6 minutes to launch an app. And that's typical, unfortunately, if you have a spinning drive with APFS on it. It just slows them down and starts wearing them out really fast.
Okay.
So APFS was designed for solid state drives and works wonders on them.
What do you recommend for the spinning drives?
I don't. I use both Seagate and Western Digital 5 terabytes for backup drives for my NAS. But I would not recommend the spinning drive for Time Machine these days.
Yeah, Time Machine has its own format anyway when you redo it.
Well, the new ones are APFS.
Yeah, case sensitive encrypted.
Case sensitive APFS, which again on a spinning drive would, or I shouldn't say would, but has the capability of damaging the drive. Yeah, they're APFS case sensitive. I just looked at my Time Machine drive.
Mine too.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'm interested in sort of on a general level as to who's using ChatGPT and who's using Perplexity and how happy are people with them. And pretty much Perplexity you've got to pay for, right?
Perplexity, you get 5 pro searches a day. If you want to go over 5, then you have to pay $20 a month or $200 a year for their pro. I use Perplexity, and every time I use it, I'm more and more amazed at how well it works. So much better than ChatGPT.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's like last night I asked it a simple question. I said, how long does it take to defrost a 23-pound turkey in my refrigerator if the refrigerator is set to 34 degrees? And it told me exactly how many days and hours I needed and what time. And I said, if I plan on putting the turkey in at noon, when should I put the turkey in the refrigerator to defrost? And it told me at 9:36 on Thursday night, this Thursday, I need to put my turkey in the refrigerator for it to be fully defrosted in order to have it ready and prepped and in the oven at noon on Thanksgiving. And I thought that was very impressive.
So how do you have Perplexity set up? Are you doing it through the website or are you?
I have their app on my phone, their app on my computer, and I have it bookmarked in Safari. So wherever I am, whatever I'm thinking of.
So when the screen comes up and says, which subscription do you want? You can bypass that.
Only you could bypass it on the app. You see, I have Pro, so.
Yeah, okay. You've already bought the subscription for Pro.
No, I got the subscription for Pro. It was a promo. I got a year for free.
Okay. Yeah, Xfinity is offering that apparently in their rewards, but I may be leaving Xfinity, so
so if you have Xfinity rewards, get the reward. It's good to install it for up to 8 people.
Yeah.
and you could use it up until next August. So what I did is I set mine up in August and I left one unused. I'm just going to change my email address. And on the last day, I'm going to extend it another year.
So what if I leave Xfinity though? Then they
It
may
doesn't matter.
Oh, really? They won't care at that point.
Right. And if you have LinkedIn, there's also a promo for
Good.
there. But yeah, the Pro is really nice.
Any privacy concerns?
I don't have any.
Interesting. Anybody else running either of them? I'm just sort of wondering in a general sense what people are using, if they're using, is it helpful?
I have a bunch of friends that use Perplexity and they just rave about it.
It's sort of all on or all off, though. I find that people are either using it and love it, or they're just not into it, don't need it, and
I
which is
use,
okay.
I
I'm
use,
not using it either.
I
Yeah,
use called Ask Annie or Annie. That's kind of the same thing. I did it as a joke to write a story for my grandkids before they went to bed, and I gave it specifically what I wanted the characters to be, and it gave me this 20-minute story that I read to my grandkids. It was a riot because I said I wanted a theme to it, and I wanted it to have a good story, good ending, and it worked perfectly. I was amazed.
Well,
cool.
Mark, the difference between those and Perplexity is a search engine. So when you launch Perplexity, it just says ask anything, and you ask it a question, and then you could ask it follow-up questions to narrow it down to get exactly what you want. And it's for searches, it's really good. Anybody else have any questions?
In that case, I have a couple of plugs to put forth. First of all is Rogers Go for Lunch. He does a 15 to 30-minute presentation every Tuesday at noon. And he goes into mostly less tech, or he tells the story from a less technical point of view and answers questions. And he's available on YouTube. And Roger, would you put your YouTube address in the chat for that?
Yes, I will.
I think that that's something that could be of use to each and every one of you. Please go to YouTube and subscribe to his feed and pick out a few things and listen to them. Today he was talking about the option key, and this was version 2 or chapter 2 of things you can do with the option key. My other plug is for a new podcast. The podcast is called Old Mac Gang, otherwise known as OMG. And the host is Marty Gensius, who has been a TMUG member for over a year. He's a professor at Kent State University in Ohio. And he has given us presentations in the past, and he will be with us next month to have a more lighthearted look at user groups. And he has guests on his Old Mac Gang podcast. One of the regular guests is Chris Wesselman. And I have been there a couple times, and we record the episode 4 tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we talk for a half hour, 45 minutes, and somehow Marty gets the audio processed and posted before midnight his time.
Wow.
I think that Marty is a tenured professor that really doesn't have enough to do because he's got about 4 podcasts and he's doing all this other stuff too. But I'm glad of that because he is a valuable member of TMUG, and we will see him again next month in December. Here ends my plugs for the evening. And I probably repeat some of this during the main meeting, but I wanted to get them in here because we had a window of opportunity. Is there any questions for our experts?
I have a question. We talked a little bit about Perplexity, and I have Xfinity, and I signed up for, or I checked to see if I have Xfinity rewards. And apparently I do, and I didn't see where to look for Perplexity. How do I find it and
You
sign
go
up
to
for it?
you go to xfinity.com/rewards,
Yeah,
and you scroll down in the rewards for a code. It'll be a button and it'll say you'd like to redeem it. Once you redeem it, they'll give you a code and a link to a website. You go to the
okay.
website, you enter that code, and then you put your email address in, and then your free Perplexity becomes pro for a year. Hold on to that code because you could use it for 7 other people.
Okay, now you say I'm at the Xfinity rewards site and I don't see Perplexity listed. Is
You might want to scroll down.
okay.
It'll say Perplexity AI.
Okay, all right. I'll look a little
And
longer.
if you don't see it, look on the very bottom under oh, let me go in there real quick. Hold on one second. Xfinity. Uh, okay, so get started. Let me log in real quick.
Oh, I see it. I found it.
Okay, so click on it. It'll give you a code that starts with, hold on a second. Let me look.
Yeah, I see get
Yeah,
for free.
Xfinity, and then like 8 letters, 8 or 10 letters after that.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it'll give you a website.
Yes.
Save that website link
Okay.
and the code,
All right.
and then you could share that with up to 7 other people. Or what I would recommend doing is do it for yourself now.
Yeah.
And if you read the fine print that says you have to use the code by 8/28 of 25.
All right. Okay.
So you use the code now for you for
Yeah.
one email address, and then on 8/28 of 25, create another account with another email address, and then you'll get a year from that date. So effectively,
Okay.
you're getting 20 months instead of 12.
Yeah. I feel like Xfinity owes me that.
Yeah,
Don't we all?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
they've upped my bill big time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, speaking of which, I'm going to be testing out Verizon Home Internet. It finally arrived in my neighborhood, I think on foot, literally. And my wife initially turned the guy away and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, that could be home internet. So I ran after him. He said, oh yeah, it was. And so we'll see. But it's $300 down for the more expensive account, $45 a month. And we're not sure about the up speed, which is a little unnerving. Usually in networking, you like to have this stuff written down, but we think it's somewhere between 10 and 20. So
It's, and if you read the fine print on those, Chris, it's up to
yeah, I know.
300. I have a friend that has that, and he gets 110, 120 down sometimes. Other times he gets 50. Sometimes he'll get 150 late at night. So it really depends on the traffic and where you are.
Well, I'm very skeptical of the whole thing, but if it works, it would be really cool and much less expensive. But on the other hand, yeah, we have very narrow windowsills. I'm not sure how the whole thing's going to work, but I thought, okay, I'll give
It's
it
a
a try.
pretty big box. It's about say 4 Apple TVs laid side by side. Is about the side of the box, and they're about 4 inches high.
The
What makes it
depth is
cost
going to be,
less?
sorry?
What makes it cost less?
What makes it cost? Okay, so the technology is completely different. Instead of being a cable in the ground, it's 5G. And according to this fellow yesterday, they're actually using separate towers. But the device that we get in the home, you plug it in the wall, but there are no wires. It is wireless to that from the tower to the device in your window, which is why you hope, and the Verizon Home Internet app will help direct you to an optimal location in your house.
Mhm.
And same thing is true, by the way, for T-Mobile, or I don't know who else is doing it. Is AT&T doing a home internet? I think they are.
Yeah, they have a version.
And Roger, you've been using it, right?
Yeah, I've been using T-Mobile.
For internet.
Oh,
I
what
did
type of speeds are you getting, Roger?
I did a speed test before I started. I was getting 160 down and about 20 up.
Is that
That's not
totally
bad.
is that totally independent of the type of signal that you get on your iPhone? Like T-Mobile, I'm on I'm on Mint Mobile, which uses T-Mobile towers. And in one part of my house, I have like absolutely no signal. I have to go to the back to my house and sit by the window to make a regular cellular phone call.
Yeah, well, it is location sensitive, as
Mhm.
Chris said. You have to
Mhm.
get it in the right window that's got the best reception from the closest tower.
Mm.
Yeah, Melissa, you've been up my way. I have
Yeah.
no cell service,
Yeah, well,
no matter who you use. So
you're in a new shiny area. You guys are
yeah.
still, you're not even dirty yet out there.
So, Melissa, have you tried any kind of repeaters or anything for your Wi-Fi?
Well, I have a mesh. I have the TP-Link Deco M5. That's what I'm using across my house. And I get
Okay,
blanketed
so
out to my backyard. Bob can tell you he's been to my house and I get Wi-Fi all the way up through the backyard.
Yeah, I set up my friend that has the Verizon wireless. I set up a Linksys mesh for him because his house he has it separated where he has a workshop, a garage, and the house, and he needed full coverage. So I meshed him up, and he gets the same coverage no matter where he is,
Yeah,
which is real nice.
we're meshed throughout. We have pretty much full coverage everywhere.
so Melissa and Roger, do you guys do any kind of cloud backups or
Just
uploading
iCloud.
of stuff? And what's been your experience?
Yeah, I do Backblaze and iCloud.
Do you? All right. How
I do-
does your Backblaze run? That's my main question.
Well, right now I have 0 files remaining to be backed up.
Interesting.
How much data do you have up there?
Uh, let's see here.
I tried Backblaze. I did not like it.
It takes forever to get your stuff up initially.
Well, it takes forever, and I have a data cap, and I have
Oh,
teenage
yeah.
boys who game.
Yeah, I used to have the data cap. I go over, I'm about 3, 4 terabytes without Backblaze yet.
Yeah, with the two kids that live at home that game, it's kind of hard for me to.
Getting back to the big picture, though, that the sort of home internet versus, say, Xfinity. I've been suspect of Xfinity for a long time. Right now, I'm supposed to be getting 1.2 gigs, 1200 per down, and I'm getting about 950. And I have a friend that's in the same boat.
Actually, I could tell you why. You're probably getting 937 or 939, correct?
949, yeah.
And the reason being is that you only have a router that supports 1 gigabit. You
Well,
have to get a
my friend's
2.5
been through
gigabit
4
router.
of their routers, and it hasn't worked. But
Don't use their routers. You'll get a DOCSIS 3.1
I was gonna
modem
say you don't have a
with
DOCSIS
a
3.1.
2.5 gigabit port on the output, and then you'll get 1.2 to 1.4 out down.
okay.
I
Back
get
to the
one.
big picture, though. Thanks. No, that's a good data point. But the point I wanted to make is that sometimes I'll be working on stuff and I've got my, my M1 wired and I've got my iPhone and, maybe an iPad running or something. And my wife's out in the living room and she can't get online with her Kindle. And it's illogical. I mean, it's like I'm a little suspect of sustained throughput and what Xfinity's really doing.
How old is the
And
Kindle?
so, I think we're talking red apples and green apples
How
in
old is the
terms of,
Kindle?
it's actually the original, believe it or not.
Well, that could be why the Kindle's really old and it needs a 2.4 band, and it could be only 5 is available there.
It's interesting that they took that ability away on the
You
Xfinity
can't
modem.
separate them,
No, you can't anymore.
and
They
that's
said, oh,
why
we've got a
the
better way
Kindle
to
won't
do
connect.
this.
That's why the Kindle won't connect. You need a dedicated 2.4 gigahertz band just for that old Kindle.
Well, it will, as long as, I'm not running too much in here.
Well, what's it
Or if,
connecting
like,
to if there's no 2.4 gigahertz band to connect to? It must be detecting it then.
It'll detect it.
Not
They just have
broadcasting
separate.
it.
Yeah, they just have a single SSID for both bands.
Oh, but it's still broadcasting it. It's just detecting.
Yeah.
You just can't see it. Okay.
But anyway,
Okay,
to be
we're
continued.
over our time limit here, so I'm going to call this AMA.
Reel us in,
and
Roger.
invite you back in 2 minutes for the general meeting.